Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this community briefing on COVID-19 and our local efforts to prevent the spread. Joining me again is interpreter Margie Prop, and thank you so much, Margie, for being with us on this Friday afternoon. And thank you as well to all of you and to the media who are tuning in to listen to these briefings. We want to remind everyone to visit our website, that's at covid19.lincoln.ne.gov, where you can find out more information about how to protect yourself, your loved ones, and our community during this pandemic. At that site, you'll also find our new data dashboard that tells more information about the cases and the testing that we are doing here in Lincoln and Lancaster County. That data dashboard is updated twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon. Today in Lincoln, we've had a total of 44 individuals test positive for COVID-19. That's an additional 39 cases beyond the 5 cases that were reported this morning. To put these numbers in perspective, from Sunday through today, we've had 161 lab-confirmed cases of COVID-19 reported in Lincoln, and that number of cases represents 57% of the 281 total cases reported in Lincoln to date. One of the reasons for the higher volume of cases this week is due to our increased capacity to do testing here locally. We doubled our local testing capacity from 150 to 300 tests this week. The Bryan Health and CHI Health St. Elizabeth drive-through testing sites together completed 190 tests Thursday, and that's a new single-day record high in utilization of our available testing. Still, we obviously have new expanded capacity to do more tests, and I urge you to seek a test if you are experiencing symptoms of COVID-19. And just to go through those expanded list of symptoms that were increased by the CDC earlier, they are fever, cough, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, chills, repeated shaking with chills, repeated muscle pain, headache, sore throat, or a new loss of taste or smell. The process for testing, if you have these symptoms, begins with an online risk assessment at chihealth.com or at bryanhealth.com. And here to provide more details on our local cases and the health department's investigations of them is Health Director Pat Lopez.
With the new cases, we do have many investigations that are ongoing. In reviewing all of the investigations that have been completed through midday today, we have found a total of 4 cases out of the total 281 that are connected to the Lincoln-based Smithfield plant. We also found a total of 49 people connected to the outbreak with the Smithfield plant in Crete. Of this number, 45 are employees at the plant and 4 have been identified as family members or close contacts of the positive case. In addition to seeing an increase in the number of cases, we have also seen an increase in our positivity rate. The overall rate for Lancaster County has increased from 3.2% early last week to now 6.9%. The state is also up from 7.5% last week to now about 15.8%, and the national rate remains about 18.5%. The percent of positive tests is helpful for our public health professionals to track whether symptoms of people being tested are caused by COVID-19 or if their symptoms are being caused by something else. We have also seen an increase in hospitalizations this week. On Monday, we reported that 4 Lancaster County residents with COVID-19 were hospitalized with 1 on a ventilator. Today, we have 9 Lancaster County residents who are currently hospitalized with 3 on a ventilator. Also on Monday, we reported that 35 positive COVID-19 patients from outside Lancaster County were in Lincoln hospitals, with 6 are on ventilators. Today, we now have 40 patients from outside Lancaster County with 7 on ventilators. As you know, the capacity of our hospitals is a major factor in how our community is able to continue to respond to the pandemic. We remain confident in our hospital capacity at this time. We also, at this time, have 16 staff members working on contact tracing, and we will have staff working on this through the weekend. This work continues to be a major focus area so we can identify all close contacts during the period the person would have been contagious. Identified contacts are provided with education, information, and support to understand their risk, what they should do to separate themselves from others who are not exposed, and how to care for themselves. They are also advised on how to monitor their illness, and when we stress to them they could spread the virus to others, even if they themselves do not feel ill. This is critical to protect our community from further spread. From the very early cases we saw in our community, our residents have listened to the guidance we provided. When our staff asked them to isolate or quarantine, they did. This was a major factor in slowing the spread and flattening the curve in Lancaster County, and is still extremely important in reducing our numbers of community-acquired cases. Mayor.
Thank you, Director Lopez. It's especially important now that we continue to follow the recommendations of our public health officials in order to protect ourselves and our loved ones in our city. If you feel sick, please stay home. Even if you feel well, stay at home as much as possible, with exceptions made for essential trips to get groceries, medicine, or exercise. And if you do go out, please wear a face covering and stay at least 6 feet away from others. Wash your hands with soap and water or use hand sanitizer, especially after touching frequently used items or surfaces. Avoid touching your face. Sneeze or cough into a tissue or to the inside of your elbow. And disinfect frequently used items and surfaces as much as possible. Moving on, next in today's briefing, we're going to provide you with an update on some city operations and trends. First, we want to share with you a behind-the-scenes look at some of the heroes working at our city, specifically our team at the Lincoln Water System. Our water team first earned that hero title last year during the historic floods, when they did extraordinary work to protect Lincoln's water supply when historic flooding caused extensive damage to our well fields in Ashland. And during that emergency, they put in long and exhausting hours working to prevent the destruction of our wells and repairing pipes to keep water flowing from our water plant in Ashland to all of us here in the city of Lincoln. Now, as we deal with another historic event, the current pandemic, Lincoln Water System crews are again going above and beyond the call of their normal duties to make sure all of us have the water we need to sustain ourselves and our families. Our water crews perform highly specialized tasks that not just anyone has the skills and training to do, which means that during this public health emergency, one of their main tasks has been to stay healthy and to make sure that we have the workforce we need to keep the water flowing to our community. Joining me now to tell all of us about the unprecedented steps that our water team is taking is Liz Elliott, the Director of Lincoln Transportation and Utilities. Thanks for joining us, Liz.
Thank you, Mayor. At LTU, we know that the services we provide are essential. We began to plan for the onset of COVID-19 in Lincoln and Nebraska weeks before the virus first was reported here. We began by having our water system staff take steps to reduce their exposure to the virus, both at work and at home. Crews were assigned to alternate work locations. They traveled to work sites alone or directly from their homes. They were diligent in monitoring their health throughout this time. At that time, we also began planning for the next steps, providing even more protection for these essential staff members by having them work and live at our water treatment facility in Ashland. The first ever isolation of Lincoln Water staff began on April 16th. As you can see from the photos, staff are spending their non-working hours living in several RVs on the grounds at that Ashland facility. That means they are at the plant 24/7 during week-long rotating shifts. These measures take considerable effort and dedication on behalf of the entire staff at Lincoln Water. Again, this entire team of professionals is placing the best interests of Lincoln first and foremost. They very much understand their role in maintaining public health and safety in the community by providing safe, reliable water supply and fire protection to all of our customers. I want to thank our labor unions for working with us to develop a plan to isolate these workers and shelter them on site. And I want to thank these dedicated employees who are sacrificing time away from their homes and families to do what is best for our community. So far, all is going well, and we will continue to actively monitor the system and take any additional steps that may be necessary in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. We deeply appreciate the efforts and planning that you and LTU have undertaken and all of the work that the LTU water team is doing to ensure both the health and safety of themselves and the continuity of our water supply here in Lincoln. Next, we wish to update you on some public safety trends observed in Lincoln since the pandemic began. I'd like to invite Lincoln Police Chief Jeff Blymeister to share recent crime statistics and how residents and businesses can help keep themselves and their property safe. Spoiler alert, lock your car.
Well, thanks, Mayor, and that's a great segue. Definitely something we want to continue to emphasize as many times as we can is to keep all valuables out of your car and to lock your car. We're going to distribute the crime statistics to the press following this briefing, and there's just a couple things that I kind of want to step through. A lot of different work that's going into this analysis, and what you're going to see is the fact that we're comparing the weeks since the directed health measures have been in place in Lincoln with the 5-year trends prior to that. And many of the data sets are significant, and so we can draw some conclusions from them. Some of those conclusions do relate directly to COVID-19. Others are as complex as all constellation of crime is, and really we can only try to understand what's going on. So on your screen in front of you, we have our weekly average for calls for service. That is all calls that the Lincoln Police Department is responding to. On an annual basis, we're approaching 125,000 calls for service for the 353 men and women of the Lincoln Police Department. And as you can see from this graphic, during the directed health measures, that average has been below consistently the 5-year average. And that's a good thing, and we do believe that's a direct response to the people staying home, staying healthy, and it's reducing that volume slightly. Once again, I do have to reiterate, because we've heard about these stories nationally, that if you need the services of the Lincoln Police Department, if you need the services of Lincoln Fire and Rescue, call 911. Do not hesitate. Our services have not changed. Our officers will respond in an expedient way. A second statistic is traffic accidents, and something that we work with Liz Elliott's staff on. We're seeing reduced numbers of cars on our roads. Again, once it has something to do with the directed health measures and people staying home, staying healthy, schools not in session. We've also enjoyed the fact that other than one day, we've had really good weather to travel our streets. And so consistently, once again, 46% reduction over these last weeks in the number of traffic crashes. A good thing. And now we begin to look at some other impacts, and whether they're directly causal to COVID-19 or not remains to be seen, but we are experiencing an increase in the mental health calls for service. And this is a trend line that we have studied over the last decade, and there's been a continuing increase in these calls. And, you know, it makes sense. All of us, myself included, continue to experience the stress and anxiety and the unknowns that are associated with COVID-19, but yet we see time and time again the resiliency within our community members and how we're bouncing back and we're being supportive of one another. This is something that we're really trying to do. The Lincoln Police Department and our staff are outstanding about interceding in the immediate. But that's where our expertise stops, and we rely on the Mental Health Association of Nebraska, Centerpoint, the Bridge, the Crisis Center, Bryan Health Systems, all of those experts to provide that continuity of care and to keep our citizens safe and healthy, whether that's physically or mentally. Once again, there's a lot here and things that we really want to point out. Part 1 crime. Part 1 crime is a measurement of the specific crime types in the city of Lincoln. And when you look at the 125,000 calls that I talked about earlier, this only accounts for 8%. But it's the 8% that we talk about and that affects our property, our well-being. And we are seeing a significant statistical increase in Part 1 crimes. We drill down into that particular data and ask what, and the mayor's accurate. Over 100% increase in larceny from autos, which is one of the biggest components of Part 1 crime. That's where we can do better, Lincoln. I know we can do better. I know all of you can take the time, make the habit to take things of value out of your car and to lock those doors. If you do that for us, it'll save you a lot of time and hassle, and it'll prevent some of this escalating crime type from occurring. As we scroll through this, and again, there's a lot of information there, and I'm more than welcome to field any questions that you may have. And I think that Diane Gonzalez, when this release goes out, will put the contact information for myself and our public information officer. Frauds are something that we have talked about, and I'll get to that particular case extensively. With stimulus checks coming out, with people being at home, and with all of the different, there's people trying to take advantage of others during this crisis. It's sickening, it's sad, but it is occurring, and something, once again, that our staff is focused on, first and foremost, preventing, but also responding and investigating when that occurs. And I promise that many of these frauds leave a digital footprint, and our investigative staff are following those footprints and holding those responsible for taking advantage of others accountable. One last trend is, I think it's hard for individuals to comprehend that there's almost 500,000 incoming calls into the communications center at the Lincoln Police Department on an annual basis. Hard to wrap your mind around. And as you can see, those calls have been reduced. Once again, whether it is directly related to COVID or not, it remains to be seen, but that call volume is reduced. And once again, reiterating the point, if you need our assistance, do not hesitate to call. If you see something suspicious in your neighborhood, but you're unsure, trust your instincts, call the Lincoln Police Department. We'll come out, we'll investigate. If it's nothing, great. And if it's something, hopefully we can prevent somebody from being victimized. Mayor?
Thank you, Chief Blymeister. You and all of our dedicated professionals at LPD are just continuing to do an amazing job throughout this challenging time, and we're grateful. You're also working proactively, of course, around the year to prevent crime from happening, and so we appreciate the collaboration we have with our residents to help bring crime down and to protect all of our residents. And now we're going to move on and talk about some good news. As we work to keep Lincoln safe, obtaining personal protective equipment, or PPE, like masks and gloves and gowns, has been a top priority for us. This has been extremely challenging during a worldwide pandemic because, of course, all cities across the country are also trying to secure this PPE. And while we have achieved some success in purchasing and distributing this needed equipment, we recently began a program that enables us to sterilize equipment and put it back into use, and thereby extending its useful life. We have a slide of this. City team members have been redeployed to operate the sterilization system that uses ultraviolet light to kill bacteria and viruses. PPE that's worn by our city's frontline and other workers is safely collected and then placed into a decontamination cabinet. An exposure to UV over a specific time period destroys the virus. The sterilized PPE is then placed into clean bags for redistribution to our team. This is certainly one great example of how we are adapting and innovating to supply and safeguard critical protective equipment during the pandemic. And we can all be proud of the creativity and perseverance of everyone involved in this effort to help keep our community safe and healthy. Next, today is the first day of May, and that means that Cinco de Mayo is just around the corner. And here to offer a message about how to celebrate this holiday safely is Eva Ayala. She is a health advocate at El Centro de las Americas. Eva, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I hope everybody can hear me. First of all, I want to thank you and allowing us to announce our Spanish speakers with this important information regarding Cinco de Mayo. So I will start my Spanish speech now. Para muchas personas en todo el país, aquí en Lincoln especialmente, Cinco de Mayo es un momento para la diversión y celebraciones. Entendemos la importancia y el significado de este día para muchas personas. Sin embargo, queremos asegurarnos de que todos los quien eligen a celebrar lo hagan de manera segura. Primero, queremos recordarles que si van a celebrar, es muy importante celebrar solamente en casa y con sus miembros de familia. No haga reuniones o interacciones con personas fuera de su hogar. Continúe usando el distanciamiento social de 6 pies, 2 metros de distancia. Aproveche la toma o la entrega de la escera para apoyar a nuestros establecimientos de alimentos locales. Manténgase conectado. Tenga una fiesta virtual y regístrese con amigos. Definitivamente queremos seguir recomendándoles para detener la propagación y mantenerse saludable. Quédese en casa si está enfermo o si alguien en su hogar está enfermo. Lávese las manos con frecuencia y que sea por 20 segundos. Compre su despensa una vez por semana y si sale, solamente que sea cuando sea necesario. Y si cuando vaya a salir, por favor, cúbrase la nariz y la boca con una máscara si tiene que salir. Mantenga la distancia de cualquier persona que no viva con usted. Y si tiene algunas preguntas o si tiene síntomas, comuníquese con el Departamento de Salud al 402-441-8006. Gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you.
And we just want to remind all people that if you're celebrating Cinco de Mayo, to celebrate with your household members, to keep your gatherings, interactions with people inside your household, and to use the social distancing, the physical distancing of between 6 feet between yourself and others. Try to take advantage of curbside takeout and delivery to support our local food establishments. And to stay connected, you could have a virtual party and check in with family and friends online. So we hope we can all celebrate the holiday safely. Moving on, we are going to share another inspiring story of how our community continues to find ways to reimagine and reinvent our vibrant music scene during the pandemic. Kelsey and Maddie Sanders, who own the 1867 Bar, have come up with a great way to support our local music scene. They've set up a raffle to win the ultimate golden ticket, a one-year pass to see every concert that is offered, not just at their bar, the 1867 Bar, but also at the Bourbon Theater, Zoo Bar, Duffy's Tavern, and Bodega's Alley. $20 buys a raffle ticket chance to win the ultimate golden ticket and support the 5 downtown music venues that, like all bars and entertainment venues, have closed because of the public health threat posed by the coronavirus. So far in 1 week, the Ultimate Golden Ticket promotion has already taken in $1,500, and the organizer's goal is to get a total of at least $5,000. And they want to do that because they want to provide $1,000 in support to the 5 concert venues. So if you enjoy our local music scene, here's a great way to show your support. To purchase a ticket, you can visit the 1867 bar on Facebook for details or log in to Venmo and search at LNK Venues Together. The ultimate golden ticket drawing will take place May 31st at 5 p.m. This weekend in Lincoln would have been our annual Lincoln Marathon, with our community hosting 15,000 runners from around the world. And while organizers canceled that event due to the pandemic to protect the safety of everyone involved, runners are being encouraged to run virtual marathons and half marathons all month long by tracking their weekly distances and sharing those results on social media. So I'll share mine if you share yours. And while we're talking about running, Ann Ringline and her folks at the Lincoln Running Company are hosting a fundraiser by encouraging Lincoln runners to register as part of their team at runsoloproject.com. Then every week for the next 4 weeks, each runner will run an individual 5K and record it in their log. There's a $50 registration fee to participate, and that goes to the National Run Solo Project. And for every person who signs up, our Lincoln Running Company will donate $20 to the Lincoln COVID-19 Response Fund. That, of course, is a fund that is supporting nonprofits providing basic assistance to folks who are economically vulnerable as a result of this pandemic. But the whole event looks like another fun way to get out and get exercise, to stay safe, and support those in need across our community. And finally, if you have just a couple more hours left today to register to vote in the May 12th primary election. It's too late to register online, but you can register by 6 p.m. today. You just need to go to the election office at 601 North 46th Street and fill out the form at the self-service station just inside the office, the election commissioner office entrance. If you have the form already filled out, you can take it to the drop box just outside their office. The election office itself is closed except for voters who need help marking their ballots. Today is also the deadline to apply by regular mail, email, or fax for an early vote or absentee ballot. You will find information about how to do that at the Election Commissioner's website at lancaster.ne.gov. You can also call the Election Commissioner's office for a few more hours today at 402-441-7311 if you need assistance. And with that, we'd love to open up the briefing for questions from the media. Any questions today?
Riley.
Oh, hi, Riley. Go ahead.
Hi, Riley from the Journal-Star. Hi, Mayor. Just a question about the isolation at the Ashland water treatment plant. Is that shelter in place FEMA reimbursable, or can you talk a little bit about our ability to do that and kind of when that became possible?
Sure. I'll bring you, Director Liz Elliott, back up to answer your questions.
Riley, that we believe certain of these expenses will be reimbursable. However, until we actually start going through the FEMA reimbursement process, we won't know exactly how much or whether or not everything will be covered. But that is something that we are tracking. We're documenting everything that we do have, and we will be doing our best to seek reimbursement when the time comes.
With this pandemic's sort of open-endedness, is this also a sort of, for now, going forward, staffing strategy?
It is at least for now, at the Ashland. We are going to continue this for the foreseeable future. A lot of it will depend on the health directives and how this all plays out. But right now, we are doing it for the foreseeable future. If things should get worse, this type of rotation could be implemented at the wastewater facilities as well. So we will continue to actively monitor that and follow the local health directives to make that decision when the time comes, if the time comes for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Things about this pandemic that are rapidly evolving. And here's another one. Apparently, the golden ticket event that I just described has been deemed illegal gambling, and therefore is no longer something that we want to encourage anyone to participate in. So my apologies, that is recent news. All right, any other questions from the media?
I have a question from Channel 8. People protested outside the Capitol this afternoon, saying Lincoln needs to loosen restrictions now and that the numbers don't support staying shut down. What is the mayor's response to them?
Well, I guess I would say that in Nebraska, we took a very collaborative approach with the public. We have relied far and away on voluntary action by our residents. And we have been very successful in collaborating with businesses and employees across our community. And we're so grateful for all of the actions that they took. There are, of course, some businesses directly affected by the directed health measures that have been in place for several weeks. But in many cases, those businesses are still unsure about whether or not they will come back to work in full time or along with what is allowed, because they're very conscientious about their own health and safety and that of their customers. So I think this will just continue to be a collaborative effort with the public, and we will continue to rely on the advice and guidance of public health officials and make the best judgment calls that we can with the data we have in the moment when we need to make those calls. Other questions?
Hi, Mayor. This is Bill with 1011. I have a quick kind of piggyback off of that one. Do you know if what happened outside of the Capitol today is technically illegal? Because it would have been far more than 10 people that were protesting.
I'll let the chief take that question. He's jumping up.
Bill, good afternoon. Great question. And in preparation for this, our staff, the staff of the Nebraska State Patrol, city law, worked collaboratively with the organizers of this particular event. And if you read the finite language of the directed health measures when we talk about gatherings of 10 people or more, it talks about in confined outdoor spaces. And really what we worked on with the organizers, and I was there personally, and I think a lot of the individuals did a great job of doing this. They were social distancing themselves. They were trying to keep 6 feet apart. And we did that through both the design of how we allowed the group to organize there at the foot of the Capitol, and just most of them kept good social distance. So, does that answer your question?
It absolutely does. Thank you so much, Chief.
You bet.
Any other questions? All right.
I guess I'll have a quick one for Director Lopez.
Okay.
I'll wait for her to go.
Good afternoon, Bill.
Good afternoon. I was wondering if you could elaborate on any direct conversations you've had with the Smithfield plants now that the number seems to have increased fairly significantly.
Well, the Smithfield plant in Crete is in the jurisdiction of another health district, as I've mentioned, Public Health Solutions, and the director and I work together very closely. And actually, they had a team go out today from UNMC to work through some other system improvements the plant could make there. I haven't received a full report on that, but I know that they were going there with that in mind. And as I reported before, the Smithfield plant here in Lincoln has put in all of the recommended measures and is doing a really good job in following those and really trying to make sure their workers are safe. It's a much smaller operation than Crete.
Do you know about how many employees they have at the Lincoln facility?
400. Which is still seems like a large number when you think about it, but compared to the number at Crete with 2,100, it's a big difference.
Director Lopez Riley at the Journal Star. What challenge is there in getting the public health message to stay home if you feel sick for some of these folks who may need or be relying on the income that comes with working in these tight quarters?
Well, we're really working with them. I know that it depends on the employer, but they're able to offer them financial assistance. We're also working with them to make sure they have the other things that they need at home to quarantine and isolate together as a family. And that might include food resources or other kinds of resources needed in the community. We've been really successful and in general have really positive relationships with the families. They trust us and talk to us about what their needs are.
Last call for questions. Any other questions from the media? All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for listening to these important public health messages. And thank you, Ava, for helping us today with our message about Cinco de Mayo. And we, again, appreciate all of the team at the city that is making incredible sacrifices to continue to serve you. And thanks to all of you for making sacrifices and taking steps to help protect yourselves, your loved ones, and our community here in Lincoln. And thanks so much. We'll see you on Monday.